أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I begin, as I always begin, in the name of Allah, whose grace I seek in this and all other matters. I'm so happy to continue with my series, Friends Along the Way, with my dear friend and special guest, Hatoon al-Fassi. Dr. Hatoon al-Fassi is a Saudi historian, Associate Professor of Women's History, Honorary Fellow of Arabic and Middle Eastern Studies in Manchester University. She's worked and taught at King Saud University and Qatar University for 30 years, a columnist for 27 years in Saudi and Arab newspapers. Her recent book, Years in the Lives of Saudi Women, was published in 2018. She publishes in Arabic and English. In 2018, she received MESA's Academic Freedom Award, and in 2012, she was decorated Knight in the Order of National Merit by the French president. And Hatoon is the proud mother of two, Ajwat and Zainul Sharaf. Dr. Hatoon, you have the floor. You're still mute. You're still mute, sorry.
Oh, okay. Trying to be vigilant. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Amina. My thanks and gratitude go to Professor Amina Wadud and to her initiative of building a new type of bridges between scholars of Islam around the world in her unique way. And I would like also to thank friends and audience for their interest in attending, to take the time to attend this webinar. Here is how I would like to introduce something about my writings and my interest in one specific area, which is women's history and women in Islam. I will start a little bit earlier as how does it feel to be a Muslim woman in the cradle of Islam. As you know, this is not the norm, or was the norm. But was not the norm was to think differently about Islam and the purpose of religion, or about women's role and position. My writings have created an interesting journey. The only way possible to express my views was through writing. My column that started in '93, through it I was able to develop a readership that respected my position, and I believe a generation who joined my beliefs and found hope in reading in my column what expressed their opinions as well. I was able to publish and write my weekly column for a long time that exceeded, as you mentioned, the 27 years. Many articles were the forum of considerable national debates. Using writing and media were very important tools by which negotiation for knowledge and women demands in Saudi Arabia was possible. Looking for women in history was always my mystery and fascination, or it was always a mystery and fascination to me. Knowing my own history was a life search. Growing up in Saudi Arabia in the 70s and 80s made me wonder about women's status in history and Islam. I had cultured parents who answered my questions about women in Islam and made sure that I was on the right track, that honored women, that Islam has honored women as equals. The history questions waited until I entered university and chose history as a major, which moved little by little to the ancient history and to social and women in particular. At that time, I was able to fulfill a lot of my curiosity. I learned about how women of Arabia lived, how they changed statuses through time, and the role of patriarchy in keeping them inferior until very recently. The question of how we reached to that inferior stage of women of the past 4 decades in Saudi Arabia was always haunting me. My upbringing taught me that women were equal to men all the way, with some slight differences that didn't affect the equality before God. However, what I saw daily around me and in school was different. I decided to embark on the mission of seeking the answers by myself, looking for the history of women of Arabia and women of Islam became my lifetime project and mission that took different forms. University itself, well, here I mean by this King Saud University in Riyadh, was not of a great help. There was only the option of history department with its political histories. There was nothing on women, nothing, very rare courses on civilizations. As an alternative, I found myself driven to study ancient Arabia. It provided me with the tools to better understand Islam and then my modern life. For that end, I had to learn the basic knowledge that men of the East and West had learned in order to write our history. They used the ancient and modern languages to write history, so I also had to learn them. It was my task to be able to read the knowledge directly as much as possible from the sources themselves without any medium. It was a very hard challenge, taking into account the difficulties of higher education for women in the 80s and 90s. And by knowledge, I mean the sources of ancient history, such as the inscriptions written by the ancients. I read inscriptions, graffiti, and numismatics in their original languages. I studied the basic Greek and Latin, Hebrew, Aramaic, Akkadian, Syriac, name it, many ancient languages, and the ancient Arabic languages such as Nabatean and Saba'ic and Lahinite. I was right in my method, and it helped me a lot in my different investigations. For example, I explored the Nabatean history, one of the ancient Arab states of the 4th century BCE, from the perspective of centralizing women in its history. There I reached to the conclusion that patriarchy was not inherent to these early Arab societies, but rather there are other factors that allowed it, which were discussed in details in my book, Women in Pre-Islamic Arabia, Nabatea, which was published in Oxford in 2007. In another example, I looked at women of Mecca in the 15th century from biography books, approaching their experiences as equal and valid to men's. That approach allowed for that approach allowed for a balanced image of Meccan society at that time, which I narrated in my article in FAW, published in 2016, a note on Meccan women in the 15th century. I looked at the history, another example, I looked at the history of guardianship that was inherited in Islam from ancient times until today in Saudi Arabia. I reached to the conclusion that guardianship was an adopted concept from the Greco-Roman cultures, which I have elaborated on in my article of Women Guardianship from Babatha's archives until the advent of Islam, published in the Gulf Journal for History and Archaeology. And in the book he just mentioned, Years in the Life of Saudi Women, that was published just recently in 2018. I would say I would like to say something about history as well, about women's history. Now, studying women independently waited until my postgraduate studies between Saudi Arabia and the United Kingdom in the 90s, where I found the discipline of women's history and fell in love with it. It answered a lot of my questions of the invisible roles of women in history, of the omitted experiences, the marginalized contributions, the undermined existences. It helped give me explanations of why that happened and when and how. I found out also about the relationship of this discipline to feminism and its tools and questions. All of that contributed vividly to understand the history of women in Islam much better, as many of these tools were applied there as well. However, much of the elaborated tools to understand women's role in Islam came my way as my road crossed sisters in Islam, then with Musawa. This is maybe a chronology, but perhaps what I would like to elaborate more on is why women's history and what is more women's history. Actually, it is a discipline, as many would know. It's a discipline that rereads and attempts to rewrite history, to redefine the subjectivity of women. It invites a new look at their activities in history, moving away from viewing their roles as supposedly natural, which often, unfortunately, also implies essential. Women's history tries to look at history from a different angle, taking the woman's perspective into account. That may transfer the history as we know it, or as we learned it. It raises many questions, such as how much of women's experience can we capture, define, or restore vis-a-vis male experience, yet away from the patriarchal discourse? Where are the women in history? What are their experiences that were missed in historical records? What did women participate in, or how did women participate in building societies, religions, or states? Were they more influential during specific periods? And if so, when, why, and how? Where do women find their voices best? And finally, how can we reread the history from the perspective of women actors, narrators, and writers? These are questions I raise also about women of Arabia or women of Islam to bring their voices and experiences to life. I will stop here and I will leave it, turn it to you, Amina. If there are any questions, I can elaborate later.
Thank you so much, my dear. With all of these series, I endeavor to tell my little anecdotes about why, you know, these particular friends are here. And I have a couple that I want to tell with Hatoon. So I have to put my timer on because I don't want to go too long. I first met Hatoon when the launching of Musawa came, and she was there with her daughter Zaina Sharaf, who was on the floor, refusing to move someplace. And Hatoon was there like, you know, what, you know? And I just loved her right away, because whenever you have a spunky little girl and, you know, the mother is, and the father is just able to actively interact, it means that no one is trying to squash her nature. And I really think it's so important, because little girls need a real, you know, they need a lot of gusto to get through it. So over the years, I had so many interactions that increased my love and respect for Hatoon as a Saudi woman, as a mother, as a scholar, an activist, and an academic, and her capacity to be able to manage all of those with so much grace and dignity and beauty just really astounded me. when I returned after Hajj to make Umrah one year, I had a little bit more relaxed schedule. So I went to visit her parents in Mecca, and I fell in love with her parents. Because I think, I don't know the exact years, but it must be at least 60 years that they've been married, but they were still just such a loving couple. Her dad had to tell the story about how it was that, you know, when the possibility of marrying her mom came, you know, they sort of sneak off to the Kaaba, because when the women are doing the tawaf, they have to take their face veil down so he could get a look at her, and he fell in love. Now imagine, after 60 years of marriage, that this is the story that he tells. So then you can imagine why it was that before I left, I actually put my arms around this man and kissed him. So it completely blew out the water all this notion that, you know, there's any one country that is so bad in terms of their portrayal of Islam and, you know, of their treatment of women, that, you know, all the men are terrible and all the women are oppressed. It just really helped me to get a much more well-rounded feeling about, you know, love that, you know, prevails no matter what kinds of struggles we go through. So my last anecdote is when she was making a trip across the United States. And while in California, we went to one of my favorite places, which is Muir Woods. May Allah protect the forests, because currently some of them are being burned by the fires. While we were there, Zaina Sharaf, being rambunctious, was doing something, and her brother Ajwad was disturbed enough by it that he, you know, started crying. And so Hatoon's husband just knelt down right on the forest so that he was eye level with his son, and he spoke to him in a loving way. And again, just any idea that, you know, Saudi men are just, you know, such the horrible most men in the world, just like went right out of the window, because, you know, this was just such a loving man, and that he was dealing with the next generation, a son, with the same amount of love and care. So I love you dearly. I am so pleased that above you in terms of your parents and below you in terms of your children, there is all of this light that continues. We did talk a little bit about maybe sharing some aspects of your journey. And one of the things that I really wish that you might share with us is how you made this choice with regard to your particular head covering, which is so stunning, to go with your already beautiful self. And what does it mean? And, you know, when did you adopt it? And, you know, just can you talk a little bit about the particular style that you have chosen? Still mute.
Unmute. Thank you. Amina, first of all, those memories really brought tears into my eyes. It's different when I hear them, when you listen to these stories from a different angle, from somebody, somebody who's watching, you're doing the normal things. It means a lot, and it moves also. But it moves only, I think, the sensitive people or those who could see inside the others. Okay, coming back to the the famous topic of my dress choice. All right, I would say a few things about it. First of all, it's not a curious matter to non-Saudis, even for Saudis themselves, as it is not a very common dress choice. Okay, let me say something about it. It's actually a traditional outfit of Mecca and Medina women, and it was my choice that I have marked, with which I have marked my identity as a Hijazi woman living in central Saudi Arabia. So that was in the 80s when I was living in. I lived all my life in Riyadh, Central Arabia, not in my original place, which is in Mecca. So the irony was that this dress choice was not recognized as a traditional outfit in those days of my university years of '83. However, I kept on wearing it daily since I was in my second year at the university and elsewhere. It became, it was, I should say that it wasn't easy. It's not an easy outfit to wear or to keep track of. Actually, traditionally, it is known that this type of dress, you would have a special woman who would come and dress women for it, especially in big occasions. But nevertheless, I insisted, and I learned how to master it from my late aunt Aisha Gadi, who gave me a complete set of her own costume with its rare jewelry, which is this one, actually, the one that I'm still wearing. Perhaps the main marker of this outfit is the white headpiece, as you can see, that is called mudawwara, which leaves part of the hair open. Actually, together with the face, so it leaves the face as well as part of the head uncovered. And it was always the contrast that that attracts the attention. That is the contrast between it and with the original woman's outdoor costume that was black, or that is black, and rarely allow the face to show. This is the custom in Saudi Arabia. I continue to wear it till today, but I made it as a marker for official meetings and for the media, diplomatic environments, conferences, etc. This is where many of you have seen me wearing it. So I continuing to wearing it till today established many levels of my threatened identity. I could say that it's a threatened identity that was stabled or was protected by this outfit. So I can say that it was a long process of it went through a long process of evolution, process of what it means throughout these years and how it reflected on either my personality or on those who contacted me or were in touch with me. In the beginning, I was seeking only to preserve culture, the culture of Mecca and Medina, which was disappearing in the face of modernity, which was not very vigilant or caring about the multiculturalism of the country. Instead, it was concentrating on promoting the culture of Central Arabia on the expense of the north, east, south, and west of Saudi Arabia, which is Hijaz. It's a rich country with unique cultures, histories, and artifacts. The tendency in those days and many years to follow was to turn the people of Saudi Arabia into one single copy of each other. There were many challenges to my choice that will make it, will take the space of many webinars to represent this lifetime journey. But in brief, I can say that for 40 years I managed to keep my image associated with this outfit. And I succeeded in normalize this 19th century culture of Mecca and making it officially recognized as part of the culture of Saudi Arabia. The state started recently to acknowledge the cultures and other parts of Saudi Arabia other than the center, and the use and started to recognize its usefulness in promoting the image of the new Saudi Arabia in its multiculturalism phases as a tourism destination. Okay, stop it.
You're so powerful. Maybe because also you're so beautiful. Okay, so from the gallery, Just because we, have a number of guests, it might be helpful if you just raise your hand. And what that means is that in the chat, there is, no, that's not it. Yeah, in the chat, for some people, there's a thing that says raise your hand, but also there is a thing that says, no, that's just reaction. There is a raise your hand function. I just can't find it. Just let me know. Okay, there we go. Ani, please.
Thank you, Amina. Thank you, Hatoon. It's so nice to see you again after so many years after the Ulama conference in Indonesia. I am very intrigued by what's going on in Saudi Arabia, all the changes. There's been a slew of them. It's almost difficult to catch up with the changes almost overnight. I just probably, for the sake of time, maybe to get your overall overview of the trajectory the country is going through in regards to women's rights, particularly the appointment of women to overseeing the Hajj, I think it is as well, and whatever changes that you feel you can express your thoughts on this call, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie, for your question. I actually, when you were interested in that call, you and asked me about it, I realized how much has things have changed since 2018, and it goes with with the new policy of Saudi Arabia to employ and to appoint more women in higher positions or decision-making positions, which we celebrate a lot, actually. Recently we started to have even ambassadors. We still don't have any ministers yet, but things are, it seems, going into this direction. But speaking about the religious arena, it's been a very interesting move that the higher presidency of the two holy mosques decided to employ women at last, after decades and decades of monopolizing this area by themselves. However, I should celebrate that the decision to have a vice president in two I think positions for women who are graduates of Islamic studies, and many other women afterwards were also appointed, like tens of them. However, I should just emphasize, unfortunately, that this is done for the women's section only. So they have created a women's section within the presidency of the two holy mosques, and these women employed or appointed are to take care of the services of these women. So they are like advising them or serving them or telling them what to do or how the areas. So it will, I'm afraid that this will consecrate more the segregation part of the two holy mosques, which they should not be. I mean, that the Haram of Mecca and Medina specifically, they represent the wholeness of Islam without any gender differences, which is not the case today. So I'm afraid that these employments are not really helping in that direction, and not helping also in any participation in ijtihad or in giving real decision making in the on the theological or theoretical level. It's only on the services.
Thank you. Laurie, you have a question or comment?
Assalamualaikum. So it's an absolute honor to be here. I'm so excited. And one of the things, everything you said was intriguing to me, and I have a million questions going. I'm going to restrain myself to one that's close to my heart, which is when you're looking at the past and you're reading historical women, you talked about what can we recapture. And this is something that I really struggle with myself, because when I read the women of the past, I feel like I feel them very much. I can sort of put myself in their place in a way, and I know that they had different historical conditions, and I respect those I understand all of that, but at the same time, I feel that there's that experience joins across the centuries, and I struggle with that as a historian, less so as a novelist, because I can take freedoms there, but as a historian I really struggle with it, and as a woman I want it to be there. So I was wondering what you think.
Well, hello Laurie, nice to see you. Well, all I can say is that your struggles are mutual, and this what happens with me even when I look at history. I actually try to step in these women's shoes and imagine how they felt or what they dreamt of as much as possible. But going back to your novel Liberty area, I would like to share with you this part of working on the book of Nabataean women. As I was as it's an academic book looking at women, Nabataean women in the 4th, 3rd centuries BCE. But in order to be able to get away from this limited academic area or arena, I tried to experiment the novel part. So I started the book with a piece of kind of a narration by one of the actors. Should be one of the real persons, but I imagined her role like she was a priestess, and I ended the book with the imaginary role of a queen who is actually also a true. So anyway, what I mean is that looking at history through historical novel is also, or historical fiction is another way of reaching out to women, I believe.
Yeah, it's your work on the history of women, that fascinated me, because I also think that sometimes as women reading about women, we do have this capacity to embody the story in such a way that we can, flesh it out. And I don't think that this was missing. I think that men writing men's history did the same thing. It's just that we need to do more of it in terms of, women engaging with women's history, both the imagination part and the scholarship. So someone has informed me that if you want to raise your hand, it's actually under the participant thing. So anybody wants to join? Margot? Margot has the real hand.
Islah also is raising her hand.
Okay, all right, I need to check the other part of the gallery. Okay, Margot, and then Islah. You're mute. You want me to unmute you? So you have muted you and I can't unmute you. You have to unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted.
There we go.
Okay. Hatoon,
I have to unmute
I want to
myself.
look at Hatoon. It's very nice to see you again, Hatoon. It's been so many years.
Hi, Marco.
Um,
Yes.
And I thought a lot about you recently and before recently. I would like to ask you about, as a historian as well, and somebody interested in and also writing about women's history, what is your connection? Can you tell us about your connection between being a scholar, a historian of women, and your activism?
Okay, thank you, Margot, for a difficult question. Okay, it's hard to be, I usually say that living in Saudi or being a Saudi woman, studying history, studying women, it's inevitable that you become activist. It's not something that it doesn't need a second thought. But I try my best. I think you still hearing me?
Yes, we can
We
still
can
hear you.
Yeah. But I try my best to take activism or take academia to activism, or try to make activism as authentic as possible by documenting it and by bringing in the historian to the field of activism in order to capture all its aspects. I don't think that I have written enough about this, but I maybe bits and pieces here and there. But I still have a long projects before me to be able to document what how activism has affected women as well. I don't think I have answered your question. Okay, let me put it in another way. I usually struggled between these two roles because if you do a lot of activism, that might compromise your academic credentials or position. But I tried my best to balance that as much as possible by being very truthful to my cause in every aspect or in every situation I am in, or so I hope that this would explain or has explained some of your
Thank you.
Your questions.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Isla, would you like to comment or question?
Yeah, thank you, Amina. It's a great pleasure to see Hatoon and to see her in good health and in spirit. And it's a pleasure also to see all my colleagues and friends. I have 2 points for Hatoon, one for her and one for all of us. The first one is related to the deconstruction of the unified dress of the Saudi women in the modern history of the kingdom. And if it would be possible as a project to think about it in the future, and it's also safe, which is to document the different outfits of women in the different areas. I know that women in the country used to have very rich kind of different dresses, something similar to Palestinian women, that the dress of a woman in a particular region would reveal the identity of this woman from what area and even from what tribe sometimes. So this is just, I'm throwing this idea to think about it maybe in the future. Second point, which is for all of us, is related to open up new venues for Hatoon. I know how difficult the situation is. And since we are all still in the lockdown, and we mostly teach through virtual medium like Zoom or whatever, if it would be possible for Hatoon to teach a course virtually in any of our institutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Islah, for your proposition. I appreciate it very much. It's yeah. It's يعني very well understanding of you. I leave it to the audience. Regarding your first point, I think there are many women specialists who are working on documenting costumes in Saudi Arabia. I try my best not to associate myself with the documentation of the dress, because it's I don't want I don't want it to be just it's a very important issue, very important, but it needs specialists also in the area of real costumes. I'm only a dress, somebody who used the thing. It's not. I can say something about the experience. Maybe this is a contribution that I am planning to put aside, but or to put forward. But the project itself, I'll leave it, because actually I was part of such a project, and I couldn't really finish it. It's a lot. It's very time consuming and hard. You need a lot of ethnology work as well. And Saudi Arabia is very rich, as you know, and it will take me away from other projects I'm working on as well. So, but it's very important. I'll direct the attention to it. Don't worry.
Yes, thank you very much. We have space for one more question or comment. So anybody want to get that in, or people just want to say hello?
Hi.
Yeah.
Can I say hello?
Yes, Fadali.
Yeah, hello, hi. Unfortunately, I just joined a bit late, but I had an appointment outside the house. Just I wanted to say hello to all my colleagues here, and say hello to Hatoon, Islah, Amina, everybody here. And if I may add one thing related to the last question about involvement in documenting costumes. Maybe I will mention a very good example and very good experience that was initiated here in Saudi Arabia a long time ago, of documenting the Hijazi costumes, and it was done through the art. There was an artist, her name, I think there is an artist, her name Safiya bin Zagar, and she made an effort to document women's life in general, but I think she concentrated on documenting the Hijazi costumes of women. And I think that's one way of, you know, of documentation. That's an artistic way of documentation. Though I think for Saudi Arabia as a very large country and as diverse in traditions and in costumes, maybe it's worth it also to have to consider documenting other aspects of the costumes. And maybe this is not only applied to Saudi Arabia, and I think it's applied to most most countries of the world, I think. And I think there is maybe I mentioned here there is a book called I think al-Asafir or something of that sort, and it combines, you know, the broderie or the art of broderie of the Palestinian dresses to the art of poetry, and they made a book of poetry and costumes, and how women in producing these dresses and in working on them as if they are writing poetry, and also they are expressing protest, they are expressing hopes, and they are expressing different types of feelings and stands through the art of sewing or of producing costumes. Thank you.
Thank you, Fawzia. Thank you for, of course, Safia bin Zagar is an icon, and she documented not only the Western, the Hijazi dress, but also the rest of Saudi Arabia. But Amira Sumbul was raising her hand. Is there a room for her?
Yes, I'm just going to go through the list because that's the easiest way to do it. So Simi first, can you make a comment? We won't close until everybody has a chance.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to be here. And I was a mustama'a in Jamiat Malik Abdul Aziz in 1981 and 1984, and saw so many transformations in that time. I'm very interested in mentorship, and I'm wondering, I mean, I would love to hear more. We need a whole nother session about how you were mentored when you were beginning. And I don't know if there's even one incident you could share with us. And I'm also interested in how you and other Saudi women are mentoring upcoming Saudi women who are historians, theologians, and scholars, and what sorts of networks exist. These things are often invisible to us. But I know in all contexts, Muslim women thrive, flourish, and support one another. So any word you can say about that would be of great interest to me. And thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, thank you, Simi. I think it would be great to hear your experience as a mustami'a in the 80s of King Abdulaziz University. It must be interesting. The networking of women in Saudi Arabia has taken many levels and ways, and we have been trying our best to make good use of the media, and social media is a new thing. But before that, we were having our own networks that, well, they elaborated. I can say that the largest network that was possible to have across Saudi Arabia was commemorated in 2015 when we had the municipal elections. So it was during that time when we were really able to connect all women, or many hundreds and thousands of women of Saudi Arabia through WhatsApp groups. But today with WhatsApp or Twitter or even all these media, they have raised really lots of flags that you can't think of trying to network anymore. So networking in itself is becoming a problematic notion. Okay, but I hope that we can at least connect, and we can see what we can do together. Amina, I don't know if you have some more people on the list. I was thinking of. I thought that I would say something about my experience in Qatar with Women in Islam class and course, but I don't know if there is
There are just two
room
more
for that.
hands. You want me to take them, or you want to go as you go? You're the host.
No, I want to take.
I mean, you're the
no,
guest.
No,
Okay.
take all the
Okay.
the questions.
So I have Amira and then Rafia. Saw that you had your hand, but you changed your mind. Just want to make sure if you are not interested, that's fine. But if you are, put your hand back up. But Amira, then Rafia, then Saqar. Okay, so we have 3 people. Amira, please. You're still mute. You're mute.
Yeah, I wanted to remind Amina of the first time I saw her when she was in a costume jogging in Austin. We were at a conference together, and I was sitting, as usual, I'm not going to be jogging. I was sitting having breakfast on a small balcony, and there comes this veiled woman in a training suit jogging, and it just blew my mind. And it was Amina. This is where I met, and I've never since then stopped being surprised and pleasantly surprised it's really good to see you. Hatoon, you left a big hole here, you know, and I'm glad you're going to be talking about the experience in Doha, because that's actually where I was going to go. And we had a time here in Doha where, and I see many of us here, Jackie's here, there is Islah, Reem is the only one who's still here, but she's in Canada right now. Tayyiba is here, Lena, all of us. And it was, now when I'm thinking of it, looking at us, we really had it very good. You know, we didn't realize how good we actually had it now that everybody's gone, because we could actually discuss our work. We really had almost a round table of constant meetings where we talked about, and maybe this is why a lot of us were quite productive in doing papers, etc. We had the women's circle. Since Hatoon left, we don't have this extremely successful women's circle, which actually began with a lecture by Miriam Cook, and then Judith Tucker, and then you and myself. It was just an amazing experience with the women circle. And I'm just suggesting there must be a way we can continue this. If I'm afraid to approach you so we don't get Hatoon into problems, given the fact that I'm in Doha, you know. But maybe if we can localize a type of circle, maybe with Islah or where Jackie is, whoever, you know, maybe then we could have the very same thing going, and we can continue the kind of work. By the way, the heart of the women's circle was Hatoon. She's I just followed along. She was really the organizer and all the rest of it. I brought the cookies. I think that says it, and set up the place and all the rest of it. So yes. And Hatoon, if you have a moment, could you please tell us something about where your book on Meccan women is at present? Because I know I promised I will never nag and ask, but I would just want to ask, because I think this is such an important work. It's going to be a blast. It's really going to be the way to change a lot of the ideas regarding you know, Saudi. You may get into trouble again there, but still, I think the book has to be done.
Thank you very much, Amira. I'll start by the book. Actually, believe it or not, I opened the folder and started to revise it and to work on it. But I didn't want to say anything more about it until I really get at a certain stage. And then I actually get distracted by other things. So this is my life story. As for Women's Circle, actually many people here on the page were also part of Women's Circle. Professor Miriam Louis, Miriam is here. Maida Bach was also part of it.
Was there.
Hi, May. So it was. It was who else I have missed, but many people actually passed through it, and I feel very. Um, thinking about it makes my heart really.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, I like that your idea. I leave it to our friends and colleagues to see if anybody would like to host it. Sounds a good idea, a way of yeah, going around and keeping the network going on. Maybe this is something that I also Simi was asking about. It's a way also of networking women who are working on the same thing. But you're always also missed.
Thank you very much. And Rafia?
Hello. I also passed Women's Circle in Qatar. So one of the women.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Rafia attended it many times.
Also had to connect with wonderful women. I saw them for the second time here, and but the first time I saw them in Qatar, and specifically in the women circle. Some of them became very close friends. But I want to say something as a woman who comes from the Gulf area. I have to say I want to talk about activism and women's rights, which I think Hatoon didn't talk about for obvious reasons a lot. I appreciate the idea of the academy part of it, but okay, I am a journalist by training, so I knew Hatoon many years ago. I remember when she has a baby, we met in London, maybe the first time. I don't even remember the conference, but I know it was about women. I don't know which of our kids, but I just remember that she had a baby and she came and she has her mother with her to help her with the baby or with her. And since then I knew her. I know it's very, very long time. And of course, the way she dressed was a remarkable thing about her. And, whenever I say that's a Woody woman, I sometimes forget her full name, and then I said the one who is wearing that different thing, and everybody knows Hatoon al-Fassi, and I said yes. So I would like to say to emphasize one idea is that being activist in the Gulf is very, very hard, and especially in a country like Saudi Arabia. I worked on research, so I understand Hatoon when she says she doesn't want to jeopardize or compromise her, academic credibility with by doing activism. And I had the same idea, but I have to say I changed my mind. As a journalist, also, I was very careful not to involve in issues that might put me in a certain category or jeopardize my credibility as a journalist. And then when I was involved again in research, specifically on women issues, also I didn't want to jeopardize or threaten my academic or say research credibility. But I realized after all these years that no, actually my journalism focusing on women's rights and human rights in general, and then research also focusing on women, political participation and other women issues, made my activism even more credible. And being part of women's circles, different women's circles, actually put the idea of activism in the front. It's if my work as a researcher or as academic or a journalist wouldn't lead me to see what is right and what is wrong, at least for women, if it's not for all people, I don't think there is a benefit from the knowledge we gain from research. And I think the problem with us, especially in that region, that we are not free. And that is the most frightening thing, that you can say something, but you can't say it all. You cannot say it all. And if you would say it all, you are jeopardizing your own, you know, freedom, your own life, your loved one, and everything. I really admire about Hatoon that the spirit she talked with now, and her smile, and I believe her dedication in doing things that, let's say, more supporting women in a different way. Going to the history, I think one of the ladies asked about, you know, being historian and activist, and going to the history is very empowering, in fact. And my journey also growing up in Oman, and also I grew up in a very religious family, but that made me understand very well what is my religion and what rights for women in Islam. And instead of listening to all these people saying women shouldn't and shouldn't and shouldn't, I understood that what they say is not right. And that empowered me a lot and made me think. I am not a historian, but I read a lot about women in Islam and everything. And having women historians, I think it's empowering, and that give women, if we don't talk about the recent, like Hatoon or others who don't want to involve for many reasons, that gives the base, the very important foundation for the new generation who are willing to, I don't want to say to start, but to continue maybe the struggle or the demands for women's rights. And I think, yes, by involving, one of the ladies also suggested that maybe Hatoon, but I would say maybe Hatoon or others can talk from the region in 2 classes abroad, because some of us can't, and you know why, but some of us can, but they will deliver almost the same message. And I think that is very important, because we want our voices to be heard, but in a way that it doesn't invoke or evoke anyone, because it's dangerous. I know Hatoon, like spirit, is much, I want to say, stronger than the circumstances. I wish that one day we can meet outside the Zoom and the virtual, and we can do something really substantial to like go forward on women issues, women rights in the Gulf. Although I don't think, maybe this is not the right time, but there is no right time to, you know, do the good trouble. And I really appreciate knowing Hatoon a lot, especially in Qatar. We got closer because that is the place where we lived together, lived like in the same place together, like we were sharing emails. But we extend, especially when I was enrolled as a PhD student, I met her in the university. And so I know how fragile things, maybe Hatoon, you remember you want to talk about women in Islam, and you know, something about maybe atheists and believers, and then that was banned. And then you encourage your students to write about women issues in the Facebook just to praise their research, and then there was a revolution against you in the university. And you know, it's like the very little things that some of you cannot imagine how much they affect their lives, affect our thinking, affect our activism, affect our academic research, or our even credibility as human beings. So thank you very much. I know if I talk about Hatoon and our relationship, it will be a very long time, but I really appreciate this opportunity. And also I want, like, from all women, especially from the Gulf, that even if we don't have like the freedom we want, I think we still can do a lot of other things, and we can continue doing them by the support of our sisters outside the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rafia. It's all your words meant a lot to me. You expressed the feeling and the position of an activist, an academic, and the conflict we have about it in a very in a better way than I did. I think you raised very important issues about how we need to rely on each other as women who believe in the same, who have mutual thinking and mutual beliefs from all over the world, and how we can make a difference against all the odds. I won't say anything. I won't add anything. I'll just second your thoughts on how we can make good use of our networks. And I think, it has evolved in a very nice way, a very effective way in the past 2 years, at least.
Thank you. We have Sakar, and then we're going to be closing. So just.
I wanted to thank all of you for this. My question is in some ways specific, but also kind of related to Simi's question. And it's mostly specific for those of us who are early in our careers as academics, who might find ourselves in complex situations as academics, particularly in the region, where doing any research on the question of gender and the gender systems within Islam puts us in a position where we might look very unemployable within the region. So my question is, what advice would you have for those of us who are very early in our careers, and those of us who are starting to teach, yet another generation of students and academics, since both you, Amina, and Hatoon, have been doing this for a very long time. I'm sure you have insights for those of us who are early in the career. Thank you.
Thank you, Sagar. I don't know if you seem, okay, you're from the Gulf somehow. You have an important, you asked an important question. And what I would say in general to new academics is to concentrate on your mission to academia first, but at the same time look around you and look at, well, it depends on, of course, as well on your subject as well, subject matter. But as much as possible, you need to be competent in your field. You should not think that activism could carry your academia or your proper work. No, the activism is something else. It's another area of beliefs and of another work. But the productive work on the intellectual part is very important, and it has to be done on a very professional way. So you have to be professional in your own merit, you see, and work hard to gain your name and for your work to make a difference. Once you do that, then your word can make also a difference. If you establish yourself properly in academia and in your own work, whether it's academia or not, and your credibility will be increased, you will be respected, then whatever you say in the activism arena will be added to you. You will add to that area. You will contribute better to activism when you are coming from a stronger position. I think this is what I can advise you to do.
Yes, I think we used to say in the Black community, we have to work twice as hard to get half the recognition. So for sure, it is a jihad, it is a struggle. And, you know, to try to cross as many T's and dot as many I's going along the path. And I don't think it'll hurt to tawakkal ala Allah, put a little bit of faith in Allah, and, you know, ask Allah for assistance in the struggle, because the struggle is real. Some of what our sister has contributed academically and as an activist will surely mark this time in history. And I, for one, am very grateful to know her and to love her. And please, you know, give my salams and my love to your entire beautiful family. And I want to thank everyone from the gallery, especially those who were able to join in the conversation. It's clear that everybody is happy to see you. And I like the idea of trying to see about a virtual women's circle as a way to, you know, carry over what sounded like, you know, an amazing collective that you all had, and is something that we can still do with each other. You know, if the electricity is working. I say that tongue in cheek because the last time I did a Friends Along the Way, my electricity cut off in the middle of the session. So sometimes you never know what you're gonna get, you know? But I think, you know, I think it's a possibility. So, you know, put our heads together and see what can come of it. Unfortunately, I can't continue with any further comments or questions. I'm going to give the last minute to Hatoon just to, you know, say her salams, and then I'm just going to close the meeting and the recording at the same time, if you don't mind.
I would like to say that this has been an honor, a pleasure to see everyone and to hear your voices and to hear your comments as well. Thank you very much, Amina, for this opportunity. I am very touched by the words of everyone and the comments of everyone. Thank you for all your chats and comments. All I can say is that I hope that we can meet together soon, inshallah, somewhere outside Saudi Arabia or inside Saudi Arabia. It's an open country now anyway. after the Corona thing finishes, you can also visit, and you all would be more than welcome. I'll just end it by my wishes to everyone to be safe and sane in these times, and that we just we don't hear any no, let me put it in a different way. I wish that our quest for the free word will not make us pay too much for that, or at least to tolerate that, or to be given the capacity and the ability to resist and to be as strong as Allah wants us to be.
Thank you very much, everyone. In 2 weeks, we're going to have Zaina Anwar on Friends Along the Way. So if you're interested and you're not familiar, I'm keeping a Patreon page, which is really the forum that I'm using, or the platform that I'm using in order to host these. And they get first look and sometimes exclusive look. So I'm trying to cover my bases. I realize I have so many wonderful friends and people that I've met along the way that I can do this certainly for the rest of the pandemic, and then hopefully keep going afterwards. So thank you all for your presence, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you, Hatoon.